Where did the universe come from? Where do we come from? Science has addressed the question of origin, but it still has many confusing findings that contradict popular scientific theories. So, those theories are not universally accepted. So how did everything begin? Scientists believe that multi-component systems, like the universe or life, were created gradually with stepwise progression. Natura non facit saltum, that means nature does not proceed by leaps. This same principle is the core component of all origin of life theories. These theories abandoned involvement of any miraculous event in the beginning of first life. Chemical evolution refers to the process by which simple chemical compounds and elements on early Earth gradually combined and evolved into more complex molecules, eventually leading to the formation of life. So scientists argue that such multi-component dynamic systems cannot be created instantaneously from scratch in a single step, and they are correct in this assertion. However, there is a way to produce a dynamic system like the universe or life instantaneously. For this, first, we need to establish a static organization in which all components of the given system must be present simultaneously. Subsequently, this static system can be converted into a dynamic one instantaneously. Here, establishment of a static organization is the prerequisite for the instantaneous origin of dynamic systems like life or the universe. We shall discuss why this is true. Humans employ a similar approach in producing dynamic systems, such as a rotating table fan. All components of the table fan are arranged to create a static organization initially, and then the table fan is switched on suddenly to transform it into a dynamic system instantaneously. The creation of the universe or life follows a similar pattern. A static organization was created first, and then this static organization was converted into a dynamic one instantaneously. The main argument of this video is against the gradualistic model of the origin of life and the universe. Scientific theories, formulas, calculations, equations are not found in theology. Theology is not the result of scientific investigation of some group of human. Discussing scientific theories are not the purpose of theology. So from theology we can't describe in detail how cosmos and life were created. This is the reason scientists don't give much attention to what theology says. However, we aim to capture their attention for a noble cause. This is true that, in theology there is no detailed description of events that has brought creation into existence, but theology has described the phenomenon in its own term. We will see while scientists struggle to make their theories compatible with phenomena seen in natural world, theology don't. Scientists suggest that the origin of life and the cosmos was a gradual process, characterized by a step-by-step increase in complexity. However, theology posits that it was not a gradual occurrence, but an instantaneous phenomenon where all the components of any particular creation were present simultaneously at the start. Here are Quranic verses that mentions that instantaneous process of creation. Surely, in the sight of Allah, the similitude of the creation of Jesus is as the creation of Adam whom he created out of dust, and then said, "Be," and he was. Quran 3:59. Here is another verse. Do not the unbelievers see that the heavens and the earth were joined together as one unit of creation, before we clove them asunder? Quran 21:30. Both of these verses indicate that, to create the initial generation of humans and the universe, a static organization was first established in which all components existed simultaneously. Subsequently, this static organization underwent instantaneous conversion into a dynamic one. Here is the general application of such verse. He is the originator of the heavens and the earth. Whenever he decrees a matter, he merely says, "Be," and it is. Quran 2:117. Before we delve into the specific aspects of theology, we aim to examine the assertion that the instantaneous assembly of simultaneously present components must be the sole method for producing life and the cosmos. Metabolism and replication are two key features of life. To explain origin of life, one must be able to explain origin of these two core components of life. Metabolism refers to the set of biochemical processes that occur within an organism to maintain life. It involves the conversion of nutrients into energy, the synthesis of complex molecules necessary for growth and repair, and the elimination of waste products. Replication, on the other hand, is the process by which living organisms reproduce, passing on their genetic information to the next generation. Replication involves the faithful duplication of DNA, the genetic material that carries the instructions for an organism's development, structure, and function. These two features of life, metabolism and replication, are deeply interconnected. Metabolism provides the energy and building blocks necessary for replication to occur. In turn, replication ensures the continuity of genetic information and the perpetuation of metabolic processes from one generation to the next. Together, these processes allow living organisms to adapt to their environment, respond to external stimuli, and ultimately sustain life on Earth. They are central to our understanding of biology, and all origin of life theories try to explain origin of theses' core components of life from scratch. But there is no consensus over which came first, metabolism or replication. There is no scientific consensus on where the phenomenon of the origin of life began, whether in the atmosphere, in a watery environment on the surface of the Earth, or in hydrothermal vent. Different theories of the origin of life propose various starting materials and energy sources that initiated the phenomenon of life. This lack of consensus over the matter makes it clear we do not know exactly how the great phenomenon happened. We will see that every gradualistic model is problematic and ultimately fails to answer the question of origin of life. The metabolism-first model is one of the hypotheses proposed to explain the origin of life on Earth. Unlike the more well-known RNA world hypothesis, which suggests that self-replicating molecules like RNA played a central role, the metabolism-first model posits that early life forms were primarily driven by chemical reactions involving simple organic molecules. In the metabolism-first model, the focus is on the emergence of self-sustaining chemical networks or autocatalytic cycles. These cycles could have provided the necessary energy and molecules for life to develop. Over time, these chemical systems might have become more complex, eventually leading to the evolution of cellular structures and genetic information. There are many objections to this model. Metabolism requires a constant input of energy, typically in the form of chemical reactions. In the prebiotic environment, it's unclear where this energy would come from and how a self-sustaining metabolic system could have arisen. While geothermal activity, hydrothermal vents, and lightning are potential energy sources, there is debate about whether they could provide the necessary energy for the complex chemical reactions required for life to emerge. The specific conditions and mechanisms for harnessing this energy remain speculative. Metabolism requires organized compartments or structures, like cells, to contain and control chemical reactions. The spontaneous formation of such compartments in a prebiotic environment is a significant hurdle. The spontaneous formation of simple membranous structures is a challenging aspect of this model. While lipid vesicles can form spontaneously, it's unclear how they could have formed and been stable in the tumultuous and varying conditions of early Earth environments. Metabolic pathways involve complex chemical reactions and require a variety of organic molecules. It's unclear how such complexity could emerge spontaneously without a template or genetic information. The metabolism-first model doesn't provide a clear pathway for the transition from a metabolic system to one that includes genetic information, which is a fundamental requirement for life. The metabolism-first model doesn't provide a clear mechanism for the replication and storage of genetic information, which is crucial for the evolution to operate. For metabolic reactions to become self-sustaining and evolve into life as we know it, there must be a process of selection and evolution. It's unclear how this process would have started in the absence of genetic information. Apart from this, in a prebiotic environment, various chemical reactions would compete for resources and could inhibit the development of a self-sustaining metabolic system. The notion of small organic molecules spontaneously acting as catalysts is intriguing, but the exact mechanisms by which they might have catalyzed complex chemical reactions in the absence of biological enzymes are not well understood. Metabolic reactions are typically catalyzed by enzymes, which are complex proteins. The spontaneous formation of such proteins without the existence of genetic information is a significant difficulty. The formation of peptide bonds in a prebiotic environment is indeed a challenge for the metabolism-first model of the origin of life. Peptide bonds are essential for the creation of proteins, and they involve the condensation of amino acids. Several reasons make the formation of peptide bonds in a prebiotic context problematic. Peptide bonds are susceptible to hydrolysis, especially in the presence of water. In a prebiotic aqueous environment, keeping these bonds stable is problematic. Amino acids can undergo various side reactions, which can interfere with the formation of peptide bonds. In a prebiotic environment with numerous chemical reactions taking place simultaneously, controlling and minimizing these side reactions is a challenge. The replication-first, or genetics-first, model is another hypothesis about the origin of life. It proposes that self-replicating molecules, such as RNA or a precursor to RNA, were the first step in the emergence of life. However, this model also faces several challenges and problems. The synthesis of RNA or DNA molecules requires a supply of energy and specific raw materials. The availability of these resources in the primordial Earth environment is a challenge. Creating self-replicating molecules like RNA or DNA requires a specific sequence of nucleotides, and the probability of such molecules spontaneously forming with the right sequence is low. Unprotected RNA or DNA molecules are vulnerable to degradation by environmental factors like UV radiation. How these molecules would have been stabilized and protected is a question. For replication to drive the evolution of life, there must be some form of selective advantage to certain replicating molecules. It's unclear how this selective process would have started in a prebiotic environment. One additional serious problem with the replication-first model, often associated with the RNA world hypothesis, is the chirality problem. In living organisms, biomolecules like amino acids and sugars exhibit a specific handedness or chirality. Amino acids are left-handed and sugars are right-handed. The spontaneous synthesis of homochiral molecules in a prebiotic environment is challenging and not well understood. Racemic mixtures that are equal mixtures of left and right-handed molecules are more likely to form, making it difficult to explain how life's essential biomolecules achieve the correct chirality. In the context of the origin of life, a hands-off approach could refer to the idea that the emergence of life on Earth occurred through natural processes without direct intervention or guidance. This perspective suggests that the complex biochemical systems and the transition from non-life to life might have arisen spontaneously through the inherent properties of the early Earth environment, such as the presence of certain chemicals and favorable conditions for prebiotic chemistry. This viewpoint contrasts with notions of external influences or interventions in the form of intelligent design. Following are the problems associated with hands-off process. 1. Purification and selection problem. 2. Probability barrier for a functional protein fold. 3. Problems with spontaneous self-organization. 4. Thermodynamic barriers of origin of life. Now we shall discuss these points. The purification of starting materials is indeed a significant challenge in the study of the origin of life. This challenge applies to both the metabolism-first and replication-first models and is crucial for several reasons. In a prebiotic environment, a wide range of chemical reactions would have been occurring simultaneously. Contaminants and unwanted byproducts could interfere with the formation of specific organic molecules, especially those essential for life. Need for selective formation of specific biomolecules is also a problem. Many prebiotic reactions are not highly selective, meaning they can produce a mixture of different molecules. The selective formation of specific biomolecules, which is necessary for life, is challenging in the presence of impurities. The chirality problem, which relates to the handedness of molecules, also involves issues of selectivity and purification. Life's essential biomolecules are typically homochiral, so the origin of this selectivity is a critical question. Purification processes in living organisms are highly efficient, but the origin of life would have had to rely on less efficient, non-biological methods for purification and selection, which is a significant hurdle to overcome without conscious external intervention. Proteins are complex molecules composed of amino acids, and there are a vast number of possible amino acid sequences that can be formed. The three-dimensional structure of a functional protein is indeed critical for its biological activity, as it determines the specific interactions and functions it can perform. The number of potential conformations, or ways in which a protein can fold into a biologically active configuration, is exceedingly vast. Owing to the intricate nature of protein folding and the numerous possible interactions between its constituent amino acids, so the probability of randomly generating a specific functional protein fold from scratch is exceedingly low. Random processes face significant challenges when it comes to overcoming the probability barrier for the origin of a functional protein fold. The exact origin of the first functional protein fold is still a topic of scientific research and debate. The first cell was a highly complex entity with a variety of components, including genetic material, a membrane, and metabolic processes. The stepwise development of these components from simpler prebiotic molecules is a challenging proposition, as it involves numerous chemical and structural transitions. It's not just a matter of accumulating random components. It's about arranging these components in specific ways to achieve functional outcomes. Achieving such organization, even gradually, remains a substantial challenge. How was this organization achieved? Was it achieved through spontaneous self-organization? Many biological processes involve a high degree of self-organization. Self-organization is a fascinating concept in various fields, including physics, chemistry, biology. It refers to the emergence of order or pattern from interactions between individual components or agents in a system without external control or coordination. All origin of life theories are influenced by the concept of self-organization. Self-organization, in the context of life's origins, requires the spontaneous assembly of complex molecules from simpler ones. This process often involves overcoming thermodynamic barriers, as many reactions tend to move towards a state of higher entropy or disorder rather than the highly ordered and complex structures required for life. These hurdles are rooted in the fundamental principles of thermodynamics, which govern the flow and transformation of energy and matter in the universe. The way in which these hurdles were overcome in the prebiotic world without external help is still an area of scientific debate. Humans also create complicated things, and this is the main reason for the progression of human civilization. Complicated machines has numerous parts that interact with each other for functionality. We will use the analogy of creation of a table fan to understand how a dynamic system like life or universe can be created. A typical table fan consists of several key components. 1. Blades or fan propeller. These are the rotating blades that circulate the air. 2. Motor. The motor is responsible for powering the fan blades and is located within the fan housing. 3. Fan housing. This encases the motor and blades, providing protection and support for these components. 4. Base or stand. The base keeps the fan stable on a table or flat surface. 5. Oscillation mechanism. Some table fans have the ability to oscillate. 6. Speed controls. Table fans typically have multiple speed settings to adjust the airflow to your preference. 7. On-off switch. This button or switch allows you to turn the fan on and off. 8. Power cord. The cord provides electrical power to the fan. It may have a plug for connecting to a power source. 9. Grill or safety mesh. A protective grill or mesh covers the fan blades to prevent accidents and keep foreign objects out. 10. Blade guard. Some table fans have a blade guard or cage that adds an extra layer of safety. These components work together to create a cooling effect by moving air within a room. How was this table fan created? To get the cooling effect of fan, human must go through 3 stages. 1. First, we need to create its components separately. 2. Then we need to assemble its components in a stepwise manner to create a static system in which all necessary components of a table fan is present simultaneously. We need to ensure that components are present simultaneously and ready to produce functions. 3. In the final stage, we connect the power cord to a power source and switch it on. This step instantaneously converts the static system into a dynamic system. All functions, such as the rotation of the blade and oscillation, are activated instantaneously and simultaneously. So, 2 kinds of assembly processes are involved here. First, components are assembled physically, and then they become assembled functionally to produce actual functions. Here, physical assembly refers to the process of physically putting together components to create a static system. It involves the actual construction and arrangement of physical elements. Functional assembly, on the other hand, focuses on ensuring that the assembled components work together as intended to perform a specific function or achieve a particular purpose. It involves not only the physical connection, but also the integration and coordination of the parts to make the whole system functional. In our example, electricity plays the role of functional coordinator as it enables the components to work together when the fan is switched on. When electricity is present in the system, its components become functionally assembled. When electricity is absent, its components become functionally disassembled, but still maintain physical assembly. Life was created in an analogous way. To substantiate this claim, we must demonstrate that the minimum set of components must be present simultaneously to produce specific function necessary for life. And we also need to establish that all components must be coordinated instantaneously to achieve that function. Here is the verse of Quran that describes these steps. Surely, in the sight of Allah, the similitude of the creation of Jesus is as the creation of Adam, whom he created out of dust, and then said, "Be," and he was. Quran 3:59. So to create life from non-living, we have to go through 3 successive stages. 1. Creation of components of life from non-living materials. 2. Arranging them into a static system to ensure that all components are present simultaneously. 3. Components are coordinated instantaneously to create a dynamic living system. Here is the general application of such verse. He is the originator of the heavens and the earth. Whenever he decrees a matter, he says, "Be," and it is. Quran 2:117. We have been discussing that the essential components necessary for the existence of life should appear or come into existence all at once, simultaneously, rather than in a specific order or sequence over time. It implies that for life to begin, all the critical elements and processes must be present simultaneously, as opposed to gradually evolving or developing one after the other. Now, we shall provide scientific evidence for such claim under following sections. 1. Minimum requirements for starting life. 2. Need for a simultaneous model. 3. Irreducible complexity. 4. causally circular biological systems. 5. Software-hardware entanglement. 6. Biological organization, whole controlling the part and part controlling the whole. The bottom-up approach in the study of the origin of life generally accepts the idea that a minimum set of components and processes are necessary for life to begin. While the bottom-up approach recognizes the need for multiple components to initiate life and aims to demonstrate how these components could have arisen from simpler prebiotic chemistry, it also explores the order and conditions under which these components may have emerged and assembled. In fact, though bottom-up approach of origin of life accept that multiple components is necessary to begin life, it still believe that those components were assembled gradually in a stepwise manner, and so it doesn't believe in instantaneous and single-step assembly. To be precise, bottom-up approach believes that components that were necessary to initiate first life were produced simultaneously through common prebiotic chemistry, and then those components were assembled gradually in a stepwise manner. The combined model emerged as a response to limitations in explaining the origin of life solely through either replication-focused or metabolism-focused models. While the replication-first models, like RNA world hypothesis, emphasize the importance of self-replicating molecules, they face challenges in explaining the simultaneous emergence of complex metabolic pathways. On the other hand, metabolism-first models focus on the emergence of energy transducing systems and metabolic networks, but may struggle to account for the origin of genetic information and replication processes. By combining both replication and metabolism, the integrated model seeks to address these shortcomings, providing a more comprehensive framework for understanding the origin of life that considers the interconnected origin of both genetic and metabolic aspects. The combined model suggests that both the replication of genetic information and metabolic processes played crucial roles in the origin of life. It proposes that self-replicating molecules and metabolic pathways originated together, supporting each other's stability synergistically. So this idea challenges earlier linear models proposing a step-by-step progression, and it suggests that simultaneous origin of multiple components is necessary for life to start. Irreducible complexity is a concept put forth by Michael B., a biochemist and a proponent of intelligent design. B's idea argues that there are certain biological systems that are so complex and interconnected that they cannot have evolved through a gradual, step-by-step process. He claims that these systems are irreducibly complex, meaning that if any of their components were removed, the entire system would lose its function and therefore could not have evolved gradually. Michael B's concept of irreducible complexity is often illustrated using the mousetrap analogy. In the mousetrap analogy, the trap consists of several components such as platform, spring, hammer, catch, and holding bar. And without any one of these parts, the mousetrap cannot perform its function. B argues that this concept applies to some biological structures, such as certain biochemical pathways or cellular mechanisms. One of B's most famous examples of irreducible complexity from biological world is the bacterial flagellum, a whip-like appendage used by some bacteria for propulsion. He argues that this structure, with its various components like the motor, hook, and filament, could not have evolved by a series of small, incremental changes, as each part is interdependent and removing one would render the entire system non-functional. According to him, these systems couldn't have evolved gradually because the intermediate stages, which have at least one part less, would lack functionality, making natural selection unable to favor their development. If interacting components require each other to perform specific functions and cannot originate gradually, it is possible that they had a simultaneous origin. Michael B. wrote in Darwin's Black Box, "An irreducibly complex biological system, if there is such a thing, would be a powerful challenge to Darwinian evolution. Since natural selection can only choose systems that are already working, then if a biological system cannot be produced gradually, it would have to arise as an integrated unit in one fell swoop. for natural selection to have anything to act on. Causal circularity refers to a situation where cause and effect form a loop, creating a feedback loop without a clear, linear direction. It can complicate understanding cause and effect relationships, as each variable or event influences the other in a continuous loop, making it challenging to pinpoint a single origin or outcome. We can understand it with an example. Consider a situation where a person experiences stress, leading to a lack of sleep. The lack of sleep, in turn, contributes to increased stress levels. Here, stress causes sleep problems, and the lack of sleep exacerbates stress. This creates a causal loop or circularity, as stress and sleep issues mutually reinforce each other, making it difficult to determine a clear starting point or primary cause in this cycle. For biological systems, we can understand it with a simple example. Central dogma of life is a good example of causal circulatory in biological system. The relationship between DNA, RNA, and proteins can be described as a causally circular system. DNA is required for the initial information to produce RNA. RNA serves as an intermediary, translating the genetic information from DNA to proteins. Proteins, in turn, are essential for the existence and functioning of DNA through various cellular processes. This creates a causally circular system where each component is necessary for the existence or function of the other. DNA provides the blueprint for RNA, RNA guides the synthesis of proteins, and proteins contribute to the maintenance and functioning of DNA. The interdependence of these components highlights the intricate and dynamic nature of molecular processes in living organisms, and it points towards the simultaneous origin of all those components. In biological systems, the concept of software-hardware entanglement draws an analogy to the world of computing. The software in this context corresponds to the genetic information encoded in DNA, which is the instructions that specify how an organism should grow, develop, and function. This genetic code acts as a set of biological algorithms governing various processes. On the other hand, the hardware refers to the physical components of living organisms, including cells, proteins, and organs. These physical structures carry out the instructions encoded in the genetic material. The interaction between the genetic information that is software and the physical structures that is hardware is dynamic and reciprocal. During development, for instance, genes provide instructions for the formation of tissues and organs, influencing the differentiation and specialization of cells. As an organism interacts with its environment, the expression of certain genes can be influenced, leading to changes in the physical characteristics or behavior of the organism. Moreover, the concept extends to the regulation of various physiological processes. The feedback loops and intricate signaling pathways within cells exemplify the ongoing communication between genetic instructions and the functional components of cells. In summary, software-hardware entanglement in biological systems highlights the inseparable connection between genetic information and the physical structures that execute these instructions. This interdependence is central to the complexity, adaptability, and responsiveness of living organisms to their environment. However, explaining how this entanglement initially emerged during the origin of life remains a challenging question in scientific research. The challenge lies in understanding how the intricate relationship between genetic information that is software and the physical structures that is hardware first arose. The origin of life involves complex processes that transitioned from simple organic molecules to self-replicating entities with genetic information. The exact mechanisms by which the first replicating systems emerged and how they integrated genetic instructions with the physical structures necessary for function are not fully understood. This is a chicken and egg problem. The information in genetic material is necessary to build the structures that read and replicate that same information. Resolving this paradox and elucidating the initial steps that led to the establishment of software-hardware entanglement are key challenges in the field of abiogenesis. As a continuation of our discussion, we can say that genotype, that is software, and phenotype, that is hardware of an organism, had simultaneous origin in initial generation. Here, the genotype refers to the genetic information encoded in an organism's DNA or RNA. This information contains the instructions for building and maintaining the organism. It represents the hereditary information passed from one generation to the next. On the other hand, the phenotype is the observable physical and functional traits of an organism. It results from the expression of the genes in the genotype, as well as the interaction of genes with the environment during development. Phenotypic traits include things like an organism's morphology, behavior, and other characteristics. Simultaneous origin of genotype and phenotype from scratch is essential for various reasons. 1. Coordination. Simultaneous emergence allows for the coordination of genetic instructions and physical structures. This synchronization ensures that the organism's hardware is aligned with the software from the beginning, promoting functional integration. 2. Efficient adaptation. Organisms can adapt more efficiently to their environment when both genetic information and physical traits arise in tandem. Simultaneous origin provides an opportunity for the establishment of robust and stable interactions between the genotype and phenotype. This can contribute to the resilience of organisms in the face of environmental challenges and fluctuations. 3. Minimized lag time. The immediate integration of genetic instructions with physical structures reduces lag time in the organism's ability to carry out essential functions. This is particularly advantageous in dynamic and changing environments. Lag time here refers to the delay between the formation of genetic information and the manifestation of observable physical traits in an organism. In scenarios where there is a significant lag time, genetic changes might occur before corresponding changes in the physical characteristics become apparent. This delay could potentially impact the organism's adaptability to its environment. For example, if a genetic mutation provides a survival advantage, but the corresponding physical traits take a long time to develop, the organism might face challenges in exploiting that advantage promptly. The advantage of a simultaneous origin is that it minimizes this lag time. Genetic instructions and the development of physical structures must be closely linked, allowing for a more immediate and synchronized response to environmental pressures. This synchronization is advantageous for the organism's ability to adapt quickly and efficiently to changing conditions, contributing to its overall fitness and survival. In summary, the simultaneous origin of genotype and phenotype enhances the efficiency, adaptability, and functionality of living organisms. This close integration was not a product of gradual evolutionary processes. It was purposefully guided. The phrase, whole controlling the part and part controlling the whole, refers to a concept where a system or organization consists of interconnected components, and each component both influences and is influenced by the larger system. In this dynamic, the whole system can exert control or influence over its individual parts, while simultaneously, the behavior and actions of individual parts can impact the overall functioning of the whole system. We can understand this with a simple example. Consider a car as a system. The car consists of various parts such as the engine, wheels, transmission, and brakes. The engine, which is a part of the car, controls the power generation, which is crucial for the car's movement. However, if the brakes, that are another part of the car, are applied, they can control and stop the entire car's motion, even though they are just a part of the system. In this way, the part like brake can influence the whole car, and conversely, the whole car can exert control over the parts like engine, brakes within it. In the human body, organs and tissues are interconnected, and there's a dynamic interplay between the whole body and its individual parts. Consider a cell's response to a stressful environment. When a cell experiences stress, it can activate a transcription factor, a part that controls the expression of specific genes related to stress response throughout the whole cell. So, in this scenario, the transcription factor, a part, like a molecular switch, can bind to the promoter region of stress response genes and turn them on or off. The whole cell responds to stress by activating these stress response genes, which may produce proteins that help the cell adapt to the challenging conditions. In this example, the transcription factor, a part, is controlling the gene expression of the whole cell in response to stress. Simultaneously, the activation of these genes within the cell, which is the whole, is essential for the cell's survival under stressful conditions, illustrating the mutual influence between parts and the whole in gene expression. This phenomenon indicates part and whole had simultaneous origin in initial generation. The concept of incremental awakening is integral to certain abiogenesis theories, portraying the evolution from inanimate matter to living entities as a gradual, step-by-step process. Instead of a sudden and complete transition to life, this perspective suggests a series of incremental advancements, with each step contributing to the complexity of emerging structures. This notion underscores the idea that the journey from non-living to living involves a stepwise progression, where each stage builds upon the developments of the preceding one. However, it's important to acknowledge that there are challenges and criticisms associated with this gradual awakening hypothesis, as have already been explored. The transition from non-living to living was not gradual. Instead, it was an instantaneous awakening, a swift transformation from stillness to vibrant life. This awakening was not a measured climb, but a sudden burst into existence. This abrupt emergence defied the anticipated script of a slow and steady journey, introducing a narrative of immediacy. No gradual crescendo, no incremental awakening. Instead, a swift metamorphosis challenges the conventional wisdom of life's emergence. In an instant, the once motionless entities find themselves imbued with the heartbeat of existence, casting aside the shackles of inertia for the dynamic rhythm of life. This instantaneous genesis, like a cosmic whisper, hints at a profound mystery, an unconventional narrative etched in the fabric of the universe. It challenges our preconceived notions of the journey from stillness to vitality. We can imagine a scene where objects, once motionless, suddenly pulsate with life. Is there anything prerequisite for this? In this sudden burst of vitality which transformed the inert into the living in the blink of existence, one thing is prerequisite. That is a static organization. Without this pre-existing static organization, instantaneous transformation of non-living to living is impossible. The notion of a pre-existing static organization is pivotal for advocating the instantaneous transformation of an organized inanimate system into a dynamic living system. This pre-established structure serves as the foundation for rapid metamorphosis. Having a pre-existing organization implies a predetermined order, a framework that, when triggered, facilitates a seamless transition. This organized inanimate system, with its inherent structure, provides a fertile ground for the swift infusion of vitality. The organizational template lays the groundwork for the instantaneous emergence of life, as if the stage is already set for the life to begin. In this scenario, the static organization acts as a foundation, avoiding the need for a gradual, step-by-step progression. It expedites the transformation process, allowing for the sudden and efficient conversion of inanimate elements into a dynamic, living system. This perspective supports the idea that a well-organized foundation can be the key to the swift and immediate awakening of life within the cosmic narrative. As we have discussed previously, two kinds of assembly process was involved in the generation of life. First, components were assembled physically, and then they became assembled functionally to produce actual functions. Here, physical assembly refers to the process of physically putting together components to create a static system. It involves the actual construction and arrangement of physical elements. Functional assembly, on the other hand, focuses on ensuring that the assembled components or system work together as intended to perform a specific function or achieve a particular purpose. To achieve functional assembly, it is essential to ensure the instantaneous coordination of statically assembled components. Why we need this mandatorily, we shall discuss next. The challenge with coordination through a bottom-up approach lies in the stepwise process of assembling the complex structures and functionalities observed in living organisms. In a bottom-up scenario, life would need to evolve gradually from simple molecules, with each step conferring a selective advantage to the organism. However, achieving the precise coordination and integration of components, such as proteins, nucleic acids, membranes, and other biomolecules, poses difficulties. The need for the simultaneous presence of multiple components required for a functional cell, including a replicating genetic system, metabolic pathways, and a protective membrane, raises questions about the probability and feasibility of these events occurring in a coordinated manner through a series of small, incremental changes. In contrast, proponents of the top-down approach argue that the complexity of life may be better explained by the initial presence of integrated systems, where the necessary components emerge together and were already coordinated. Top-down approach has captured the most important necessity for origin of life, and that is a coordinated origin of replication and metabolism. A gradual process could result in failure in this intricate coordination. In the context of the origin of life, coordination failure refers to a situation where the emergence of replication and metabolism is not synchronized. If one feature of life does not originate instantaneously with the other, coordination failure can lead to challenges in the development and evolution of early life forms. We have discussed that the appearance of life required a pre-existing organization in which necessary parts were present simultaneously. These components formed an inert and static system. Initially, there was no crosstalk between those components. We have discussed that to start crosstalk, these simultaneously present components needed instantaneous functional assembly. However, those lifeless components were inert and resistant to begin crosstalk. What, then, broke this initial inertia or resistance to coordinate those components and establish effective crosstalk? We have discussed this with an analogy of a table fan. In a table fan, simultaneously present components forms a static or inert organization. In the absence of electricity, this system remains inert and static. The arrangement of components doesn't spontaneously generate dynamic properties. Similarly, without the infusion of a non-physical force, the static arrangement of inanimate components may maintain inert conditions indefinitely. The non-living system lacks the inherent capacity to transition to a dynamic state or exhibit properties like consciousness without an external catalyzing force. Just like sudden infusion of electricity breaks the inertness to produce a dynamic and coordinated system, origin of life also needs sudden infusion of such non-physical force. That means it needs an extra factor that breaks the initial inertness and also coordinates specifically arranged components to produce desired function. Quran says, "He fashioned him in due proportion and breathed into him something of his spirit. And he gave you hearing and sight and feeling." Quran 32:9. The Big Bang Theory proposes that the universe began as an incredibly small, hot, and dense singularity approximately 13.8 billion years ago. At this point, all of space, time, matter, and energy were compressed into an infinitesimally small point. As the universe started expanding, it entered a rapid and extremely high-temperature phase known as cosmic inflation. During this inflationary period, the universe expanded exponentially, increasing in size by an enormous factor. This expansion smoothed out irregularities and set the stage for the structure and uniformity we observe in the cosmos today. After the inflationary period, the universe continued to expand at a slower rate. As it expanded, temperatures cooled, allowing elementary particles such as quarks and electrons to form. Within the first few minutes, basic building blocks like protons and neutrons emerged through nucleosynthesis. Over the subsequent hundreds of thousands of years, the universe cooled further, entering a phase where protons and electrons combined to form hydrogen and helium atoms. This period, known as the Cosmic Dark Ages, lasted until the first stars and galaxies formed through gravitational attraction. The formation of stars marked the beginning of the universe's transition from a predominantly featureless, gaseous state to the complex and structured cosmos we observe today. Galaxies formed, containing stars, planets, and other celestial bodies. Over billions of years, processes like stellar evolution, supernovae explosions, and cosmic interactions shaped the diverse and dynamic universe we see around us. Zero-volume problem. The concept of all the mass of the universe being compressed to zero volume in a singularity does indeed raise conceptual challenges and has been a subject of criticism. The idea of zero volume implies an infinitely compressed point. The concept of this infinitesimal point in space raises questions about how physical quantities can be well defined in such a scenario. It challenges our intuition and understanding of the nature of space and matter. Describing the entire mass of the universe as being concentrated in a singularity with zero volume leads to mathematical inconsistencies. This scenario involves dealing with infinities, which often signal a breakdown in our current understanding of physics. It points to the limitations of applying classical physics to such extreme conditions. For explanation, the singularity scenario highlights the need for a quantum theory of gravity, as classical general relativity breaks down at extremely small scales. The Planck scale, which is around 10 to the power minus 35 meters, is often considered as the fundamental scale where quantum effects become significant. Describing the singularity requires reconciling quantum mechanics and gravity on these scales, a challenge that remains unsolved. The extreme conditions of the singularity make it inaccessible to direct observation. As a result, the singularity remains a theoretical construct that is challenging to validate or refute through empirical evidence. Finally, describing the universe as originating from a singularity does not address the fundamental questions of causation and the ultimate origin of the singularity itself. It leaves open the question of what processes or conditions led to the singularity's existence. All these problems highlight the need for a more comprehensive theory that can address the extreme conditions at the beginning of the universe. Quran's model of universe has been conceptualized from the interpretation of following verse. Do not the unbelievers see that the heavens and the earth were joined together as one unit of creation, before we clove them asunder? Quran, verse 21-30. This verse can be interpreted as following. 1. The universe had a finite beginning. The whole universe was joined together as a unit of creation in a finite volume. All celestial bodies were present at this unit of creation. 2. The idea of unit of creation also suggests the whole universe was statically organized with no sign of dynamism at the beginning. 3. The idea of clove them asunder suggests that the statically organized universe was converted to a dynamic universe instantaneously. The idea of imagining a finite singularity with all celestial objects already present in a preformed state does align with certain alternative cosmological models. These models attempt to address some challenges associated with classical singularities. Let's explore how such a concept might address certain cosmological issues. 1. Avoidance of classical singularities. By proposing a finite singularity, Quran potentially avoid the classical singularities associated with infinite density and curvature predicted by certain cosmological models. This aligns with the goal of smoothing out extreme conditions that classical physics struggles to describe. 2. Quantum to classical transition. In a preformed universe, transition from quantum mechanics to general relativity has already occurred. This could potentially provide a smoother and more coherent explanation for the observed large-scale structures in the universe. 3. Formation of celestial objects. If celestial objects are already present in a preformed state, it could offer an explanation for the existence of structured cosmic entities, such as galaxies and stars, from the very beginning. This approach might avoid the need to explain how structures formed from quantum fluctuations during the early moments. 4. Cosmological problems. The concept of a preformed universe might address or modify some cosmological problems associated with classical singularities, such as the horizon problem, flatness problem, and the early origin of complex large-scale structures. Who is the creator? Who created the creator? We will answer these questions now. In the Quran, God is named Allah. Allah has many other names. All these names of Allah reveal His identity. We will discuss few of His names here. 1. Allah is Al-Abad or Al-Baqi. These names of Allah emphasize His attribute of being everlasting. Allah has no beginning or end. No one created Him. Allah has existed from eternity and will continue to exist for eternity.
Allah suffers no decay.
Allah is not bound by death, birth, or aging. 2.
Allah is Allahat.
This name of Allah means the one, or the unique. It signifies that Allah is singular, indivisible, and uniquely one in His essence and attributes, with no partners or equals. 3.
Allah is Al-Shamat.
This name means the eternal refuge, or the self-sufficient. It signifies that Allah is the one upon whom all creation depends, yet He depends on no one. Allah is absolute, eternal, and free from all needs. 4.
Allah is Al-Jahir.
This name highlights Allah's attribute of being the manifest, the evident. Allah's existence is logically traceable. Believers can realize that Allah's presence and attributes are apparent and visible in the world around us, reflecting His power, beauty, and wisdom in creation. 5.
Allah is Al-Batin.
This name of Allah indicates His hiddenness or concealment. Allah is completely hidden from human perception. We cannot see Allah with our eyes or hear Him. As no one has seen Allah, it is not possible for any human to build an idol of Allah. Though believers can find Allah through reasoning, He is completely hidden from unbelievers. Unbelievers cannot reach Allah through their logic. The unbeliever's heart is diseased, and Allah has distanced Himself from them. We don't believe in the existence of anything that we can't perceive by our senses, detect with our technology, or infer through scientific reasoning. However, this universe is full of mysteries, and such imperceptible existences surround us. Like humans, they are also intelligent beings designed by Allah with a purpose. The purpose is to test human soul, and in this test, these imperceptible beings are used as tools. If these beings were not imperceptible, humans would not allow their souls to be tested. Two kinds of imperceptible beings are described in the Quran: angels and jinns. Shaitans are from jinns. Allah allows shaitans to whisper evil ideas to humans' mind. Next, Allah, having access to the human soul, observes whether the human is fighting the evil ideas or not. If a human fights the evil ideas coming to their mind, then they pass the test. If the human agrees with the evil ideas and commits sins, then they fail. Angels are other imperceptible beings that record human deeds that will be produced on the Day of Judgment. The Quran recommends humans to believe in the existence of imperceptible beings. Thank you for watching. May Allah guide you to truth. For details, contact us at www.originquest40@gmail.com. Allah Hafiz.